let's go ahead and let's start with real quick some college before we get to the NFL. You come from Penn State down to Mississippi State. What was that like? What was it like coming from Big Ten country down to SEC country?
Yeah, it was great. Having the opportunity to play in what I believe are the two best conferences, in America, and the strongest of both sides. I was able to play in, and so obviously it was a great challenge for me to step away from the Big Ten and come down to the SEC. It was definitely different. I experienced some things, I guess you could say, like, when I left high school and went to Penn State, it was a lot different. So that's kind of what it reminded me of, I guess, once I got to Mississippi State. It was different, but, it allowed me to, meet a whole lot of new people, experience new things. And I don't regret it at all. I'd do it all over again if I could.
All right, so what was it like when you got the phone call from the Saints? It's kind of been our question of the week because I'm always fascinated by it. I know my own experience when I got drafted. That's something that I'll remember exactly where I was and how it happened forever. And the Saints actually trade up to get back into the seventh round to select you. So did you know before they traded in that the Saints were going to select you after you saw it? Is that when the phone rang?
No, so they were able to call me before, but it was crazy how it ended up happening. Honestly, I was able to I had a lot of phone calls and a lot of talk with teams, like the pre-draft process. So I was able to talk to, a lot of different teams, and I kind of had, I guess, my top three teams that I talked to the most. And I guess I had an idea of, who could draft me or who, was going to be the most interested once the free agent signing thing started if I was to go undrafted. So, the Saints were in that top three. So it wasn't like a complete surprise, but obviously they were out of picks going into day three, so wasn't expecting to get drafted by the Saints.
I remember when I got selected, the Chargers didn't have like a third round pick. They didn't have a second, third, or fourth round pick, but I thought, there was a chance I'd go there as well. And I remember, the GM saying, "Hey, don't worry. In the NFL draft, we can move wherever we want." And then after they selected me, he's like, "See, I told you, you panicked too much." And so I got to ask you, what's the first conversation that you had? Because mine was the GM telling me, like, "Hey, chill out a little bit."
Well, it made for a great story, to be honest with you. And, it's obviously going to be special for not only me, but my family and my friends that were able to share the moment with me as well. But it was right around, I would say, like late sixth round. Actually, it was probably in the seventh round at this point. And my phone rings. It's a Texas area code. So I immediately look up at the screen and see if Houston or Dallas had a pick coming up soon,
Right.
and I didn't see him. And so I figured I'd answer the phone, and it's Coach Payton. And I hadn't talked to Coach Payton yet, so it was a bit of a surprise. I kind of was caught off guard by it, but obviously being able to talk to Coach Payton, somebody of his magnitude, it was awesome. It was great to talk to him. So he says, "Hey, we're interested in bringing you in on a undrafted free agent deal. We got a unique vision for some things that we could do with you. We think it would be a great fit." And like I said, I thought that talking to the Saints and the draft process was a good fit for me as well. But at the time, I thought that I was actually going to have a better fit at another place. And so as polite and respectful as I could, I told Coach Payton, I was like, "Hey, I think that my best situation might be going a different route." And so Coach Payton says he's going to call me back. He gets off the phone. He calls me back again, and he tells me that he still thinks that this is the best situation for me. And I call my agent. We talk it over a little bit with him, and shortly after that phone call, I get another call from another number that I didn't have or didn't recognize, but this time it was a New Orleans area code, and I answer it. And, it's the GM and Coach Payton both on the phone. And, Coach Payton said this, and I'll never forget it. He says, he was like, "Yeah, last time I called you, I was asking you to come to New Orleans. But this time I'm not giving you the choice. We're going to trade up in the draft, and we're going to take you." So it was an awesome moment for my family and I. I'm sitting on the phone with both of them, and nobody in the room knows at this, because like of those three teams that I was talking to, none of them had picks left. So we were
Right.
kind of under the assumption I was going to be a undrafted free agent. We were all fired up about that. I was going to have an opportunity to play for an NFL team. Obviously, a dream come true. I'm sitting on the phone, like I said, and I'm kind of like pointing up at the TV for everybody to look at. It says, the Texans trade their pick to the Saints. And then, about 15, 20 seconds after that, my name popped up on the screen, and he completely destroyed my living room.
Okay, so that's a remarkable story, and the fact that he calls, because when you get to that point in the draft, like you mentioned, and there's a possibility of you being an undrafted free agent, you get to choose your situation and you get to choose what you think's best for you. I think it's amazing that they called and they said, "Hey, here's our plan for you." And it didn't quite work out that first phone call, but they thought so much of you, Tommy. And we're catching up with Tommy Stevens here on Hanging with Hester. They thought so much of you that they said, "You know what? We're not going to leave this to chance. We're actually going to get back into the 7th round to select you." So that's actually a really fascinating part of your story. But when you look at it, look, you're 6'5", 235 pounds. We know what you did at Mississippi State. And if people forgot, you're a guy that ran for 500 yards at Penn State. You threw for 300 yards. You also had 14 catches and 2 touchdowns at Penn State. And so if anybody is getting value out of Tommy Stevens, I've got to imagine, man, it is Sean Payton. This is one of the most unique and the brightest minds in the NFL. And, of course, you're going to hear, you're going to hear the Taysom Hill stuff probably until you get into training camp. And so you got to love the fit, though, because Sean Payton has shown he is not afraid to put an athlete in position to succeed.
Absolutely. And there was a lot of different things that they've been able to do with Taysom, obviously, that are similar to some of the things that I was able to do at Penn State. So, I'm fired up for the opportunity. I couldn't be more thankful and more appreciative of the Saints organization for taking a chance with me. And I'm going to work as hard as I possibly can every single day to make sure that they know that it was a great pick on their end.
Now, have you had that conversation with Coach Payton as far as, maybe what some of the things he can envision you doing? Or has it pretty much been like, hey, we've got a lot planned for you, just kind of buckle up and get ready?
A little bit of both, I guess you could say. I mean, it was originally the way that they said to me was they actually asked me how I envisioned seeing myself in what role, I guess. They asked me what role I thought that I would have. This was before I was drafted.
Right.
They asked me what kind of role do I envision myself having in the NFL, and I said, well, I think that first I'm a quarterback. I think that my best football is still way, way ahead of me. I'm still very underdeveloped, I think, as a quarterback. I haven't been playing the position for as long as maybe some of these other guys have. I really didn't, I guess, get my feet wet into the quarterback game roughly till about my senior year of high school.
Right.
And with that being said, we ran the triple option. We ran like Navy's offense. So I mean, I was like 1,000-yard rusher.
Yeah.
In high school for each of my last 2 seasons. So I really started developing as a quarterback like my redshirt freshman year once I linked up with Coach Moorhead at Penn State. So I do think overall, I think that I still have a lot of room to grow as a quarterback. And what better opportunity is there in anywhere else in the league than to go into the quarterback room that I'm going to be going into and learning from all these different guys that have different, skill sets, different experiences. I can't think of a better situation that I'm going to be in than the room that I'm going into this year. So incredibly excited for that opportunity. And with that being said, I think that like I keep saying, I think I can develop as a quarterback, but with that being said, I'm going to be able to do unique things given my skill set, and whatever the coaches think that will be possible for me to do and give me the opportunity to do, I'll attack 100% every single day and work hard at that just to, get on the field and help and have a role and help, like I said, help in whatever way is possible.
Catching up with one of the newest members of the New Orleans Saints, Tommy Stevens, here on Hanging with Hester. All right, so what's it been like virtually for you through the pre-draft process? Now you're drafted. What's it been like trying to learn everything in a virtual world where you're either on your phone, you're on a computer, and Zoom is basically your whole life right now?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it presents itself a pretty unique opportunity in itself. Obviously with the older everybody gets, the more technology continues to evolve. And, I think what would this process have been like, maybe 10 years ago versus what it is now. So I think that we have the right resources in order to, have success with this. But with that being said, this people keep asking me, hey, I couldn't imagine having to do this, for my rookie year. I'm glad that I was able to do it normally. I feel bad for you, but at the same time, for me, this is all I know. I
Yeah.
didn't have to go through the draft process and I guess maybe do the normal route. I mean, this is the only draft process that I've ever done, and it's all I know. Um, so I think that with it being virtual, it creates this opportunity that's a pretty level playing field across the board, and not only for the rookies, but maybe for some of these guys that have been off season moves, or guys that have moved in different places and whatnot. Everybody's on a pretty even playing field, and it's going to be up to yourself just to grind and make sure that you're in the position to be ready once this thing clears up.
Yeah, that's a really good point that you make there, Tommy. Okay, we've also been asking every draft choice that we've had on, have you been to Louisiana? Have you been to New Orleans? But I know for sure that you have, because you played against UL Lafayette inside the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Did you get a chance to spend any time in the city on that trip? And is that the only time you've been in New Orleans?
Yeah, it's actually the only time that I've ever been to New Orleans, and I haven't been able to spend as much time in the South that I wish I could have, at least. But the good news is I'm going to have some time to experience the South some more, and couldn't be more excited, for the opportunity to live in New Orleans. And so far the fan base has embraced me, and they've been, I've seen nothing but great, support and well wishes, and like I said, I couldn't be more excited to be a Saint.
The fan base in New Orleans, and I've said it all week long, is fantastic. You're going to fall in love with them as well from day one. You've played in places with great fan bases, Penn State and Mississippi State. It's, in my opinion, going to go up a notch because they have the best fans in the NFL. Tommy, man, this has been a lot of fun. I appreciate your time today. I know your world is kind of a whirlwind right now, trying to figure out exactly what's going on. You can't really be at the facility right now, which is crazy, but best of luck to you. Can't thank you enough, and hopefully we'll have you on again soon.
Awesome, sounds good. Thanks again for having me.